Hey all, today I want to share a breakdown with you of a most recent redesign that I did, which was a redesign of a trailer for Destiny 2's The Witch Queen expansion. And I worked really hard on this. It took me a long time to do it. And yeah, you can see with all these tracks that I have and all of these sound effects that I worked really hard on this project. And I wanted to share with you sort of my process and how I broke everything down in the project, and share with you some of the layers that I and my process of handling all these sound effects and like how they make the different sounds. So, like with any trailer or with any redesign, in fact, I start with BGs and I go through and I mark each of the scene changes and if they need a BG not or not. And I go frame by frame and try to mark these down. And I'll play some of these BGs for you real quick. They're a mix between like a realistic sound design and also an expressionistic sound design to give it sort of that feel that I really wanted to go for. And yeah, just like with any science fiction scene, sci-fi has this sort of world that it occupies in our brain, a sort of like emotional world. And so I used a lot of design sounds as well as ambiances and some music tones to give it that tonal quality that I really wanted to go for with the whole redesign. So I started with the backgrounds, and then after I was done with the backgrounds, I started to sort of work on the initial sound effects. And these are my enemy sound effects that I have in here, and just like magic sound effects in general. This one I want to share with you is the force field sound effect. So I used a bunch of like electronic recordings as well as like designed recordings. So like you can see electricity stuff here for that, and I'll go through each of the layers for this. I think whenever I'm designing sound effects, I think about it in a bass layer, a middle frequency layer, and a high frequency layer. And that way I can really fill out the entire frequency spectrum when I'm thinking about every single sound effect. And that gives every single sound effect a little bit more emotion to it, a little bit more, we can connect with it a little bit more because it fills out the entire frequency spectrum. So that's a bass layer. And then I started going to the high layers, the middle layers. Some more high layers to give it a little bit more tingle in your ear. And now all of that together, it sounds like this. And so, yeah. So that was like the first sound effect that I really went for in this journey. And as you can see, I did a lot more. But I really wanted to make sure that I was keeping consistent with the world of Destiny and the world of this science fiction. And I was thinking about that with every single sound effect because Destiny is such this unique experience. It's this magical experience. It's a science fiction experience. It's a war experience. It's an MMO experience. And every single effect and spell really has to have some sort of not only emotional but also physical quality to it, like you can really feel it. So I wanted to go through this sequence a little bit and share with you some of the this sequence right here with the big fight sequence at the end of the trailer, and share with some of the main sound effects that I had a blast doing, and take you to a little bit more of the project. So let me play it for you real quick. So yeah, as you can tell, there's a lot of layers that go into this specific scene. I have so much Foley, so much gun sound, so many different layers. And so let's start with I wanted to start with one of this is a good one we can start with. So this is a tank character, and he has the spell. I started with the middle frequencies here, but you can tell that I really wanted to get that sort of vibe that you're pulling from this source somewhere in the world, and that of course is the light in Destiny. But so I played with a lot of reversed sounds, reverberant sounds, shimmer sounds, fire crackling, sizzling sounds. And I really wanted to give that more impact when he was fighting the enemy here. So I just added those sounds at the end to make it sound like this is not just some like normal spell. This is pulling from somewhere, and there's an emotional quality behind it. And I layered those sounds on top of some sounds that I sent through a reverb aux. And that are like the whooshes, the swords. Because you don't really see like a sword, but you see like a light of a sword. And I tried it without the sword sounds, and I think I like it better with the sword sounds, because you know it's like a sword that he's swinging, but you don't get that quite without those sounds. So a lot of pitch shifting, a lot of time compression, expansion, and a lot of reverb to really get that sword sort of feel that he's swinging. And then of course the whoosh at the end to really give it some more impact. And so let me play all those sounds for you together. And then the sword sounds too. And all that together with the BJs and like that. Now, I did a lot of cinematic sound design with this redesign specifically because I felt like I wanted to showcase my my talents at creating sound effects, but also creating a storyline for the audience to follow. And I felt like this trailer had a lot of like moments where title sequences come in and different comments come in during, and that needed a little bit more impact in my opinion. Especially during this sequence when it's changing between the different scenes here, and that really like needed something more than just the sound effects in my opinion. And so I found a lot of these Daiko drums, and I used those a lot because I really liked how tonal they were, but also like how impactful they were. And I layered those Daiko sounds with some impact of pressing cardboard and hitting cardboard to give it that sort of cinematic like booming that you are so used to hearing. So altogether, the Daiko and the cardboard sound like this. And yeah, I'm really proud of that. I used a lot of risers in this, risers and stingers in this redesign, and that was to give, to bring the tension into the scene and into the trailer. And a lot of sound design is tension buildup and tension release. And I felt like my sound effects were like the tension release, where I played it without any of the cinematic sounds, and there was no tension that was really being built besides the cinematic and then the backgrounds. So I had to add these risers to really like, you almost don't hear them when you're listening to the actual trailer, the redesign in all, because they're so well built into the scene, and they sound like a background, but they give you this emotional quality that you don't have. So let me play them for you. So that was during that sequence. Another big one is at the end. I found this vocal. I found that vocal sample, and I thought that worked really well with the Destiny lore and also storyline. And I don't think I would have, if this were like Star Wars or another IP, I don't think I would have used the choir necessarily in that sound design, but Destiny is like all about community. It's all about the Guardians and working together. So I feel like that choir really brings that sort of emotion that's close to the Destiny IP. Let me play some more of these risers for you. A lot of those science fiction whispery risers I really took from the enemies in this trailer, because I felt like the Guardians and the enemies are they're at odds with each other, and so the risers that I used when we're showcasing the like fighting the enemies or like trying to take the light back, I used these science fiction-y choir risers. Here's another one for you. And I wanted to make sure that we somehow can feel that these are bad guys versus good guys. I know it sounds cliche, but really, like, it's important, and these aren't the most dominant. These cinematic sounds aren't the most dominant in the scene. It's really the sound effects that I wanted to shine forward, because I'm showcasing my sound effects, but also the cinematic sound effects needed to be there because I needed to build the tension there. And I can, with the cinematic sound effects and the BGs, I can afford to go more cliche because they're not so prominent. Whereas with the sound effects, if I just went the cliche cartoony route, you don't get that sort of the feeling of Destiny and feeling of science fiction, feeling like you're really there, and really getting the impact of these sound effects and these spells. Let me take you through one more effect that I'm like really proud of, and it's this right here with the knives. So let me take you through each one of these layers and what I was thinking of when I went through these layers. So these three layers, I wanted to get the feeling of the knives coming at you. And this black powder keg igniting was a really great way to do that, because it sounds like wind, but it also sounds like the fire that this spell sort of encapsulates. So I felt like that was perfect. And then the knives, of course, are really important to the scene, and feeling and hearing the whooshing past your ears are really important. So those were the sound effects that I used for that. Let me play them one more time for you. And then I wanted to make sure that the impact didn't really land because the enemy like missed. So while you still hear the firing, there's no like big impact bassy sound because like it doesn't actually hit the character. Let me play these fire layers for you. So that's really important. And then when the Guardian comes back at the enemy, there's a little bit more bass in there, a little bit more impact, and of course that's coupled with these cinematic sounds. So yeah. One more thing I wanted to talk about was these gun sounds. Let's see if we can find them. This one right here. No. This one right here. Yeah, this one. So I had a lot of fun with these gun sounds because they're not just one gun. That's it. There are actually 3 different layers layered on top of each other, and that's to give it some sort of like to be based in reality, but also have the science fiction emotion behind it. So let me take you through layer by layer. And that, of course, is the real gun. I think I used a pistol here. I used a Smith & Wesson 41. And then there's another layer of the science fiction on top of that. And then I had to give it some more impact. So here's some more bass impact. And then all together, that sounds like this. And then I felt like that was a good moment to go more cartoony because I hadn't at all with the cinematic. And that's the... I just thought it was super fun to do, and giving that shotgun some more layers as well. And that brings that all together. I wanted to take a little bit of a look at the Foley as well. And the Foley are all cut from libraries. I didn't record any of this in a studio, and that made it a lot harder. I think definitely if I were to go back and redo this sound design, I would have done more Foley recorded, but I was on a crunch for this one, so I pulled it from a library, and I think it sounds really great, but I think it would have been a lot more fun and would have filled out the sound a little bit more if I did more Foley recording myself. Now, I did another redesign where I recorded all the Foley and all the sound effects myself, and that's up on my channel if you want to check it out. It's the mountain biking redesign. So let's go through this Foley, and I want to take you step by step, literally, how I did this. So this was a really important moment because that was the only sound effect that we heard was these footsteps. And all this Foley I layered as well, just like the pistol. And I took 3 different layers, 3 different science fiction boot layers, dress layers to give it more clarity, to give it more movement. And let me take you through that. And then all together, these are the footsteps. This is the main footsteps. This is how it sounds. And then I wanted to make sure that that each of these characters had decidingly different sounding footsteps, because we needed to make sure that there were not, because we can see both characters, so we need to make sure that both characters have their different tonal footsteps. Let me play that together for you. And then I layered these footstep sounds with some movement of gear and like leather together. And then those are all going through my reverb box. So all the reverb is in one place, right here. And I used a deverb delay plugin. Oh, reverb plugin, my bad. And I controlled the each of the I used automation to control that curve rather than having a plugin on every single track, because that's really CPU intensive, and I was working mostly on my laptop, but also on some of my school computers. And yeah, so let's talk about this sequence right here. This sequence, let's see if I can find. I worked a little bit on the creature sounds for this redesign, and I know Destiny is all about their personality, or sorry, Bungie is all about their personalities in with their creatures. You know, from the grunts with Halo. These are some of my favorite memories are battling those grunts in Halo and them coming up with quippy statements. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that into my redesign. And so here is the creatures reacting to being shot in the face with an electricity beam. So yeah, so that you almost don't notice in the redesign, but you subconsciously notice it, and you can really hear it when I play it again for you. Let me play it again for you. Yep. Yeah. Let me take you through that Foley and that sequence real quick too. Let me share that with you because I was really proud of that one. I felt like I did that really well. All right, let me play that again for you. Just that sequence one more time. Yeah, so that's my redesign. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer your comments down below. Make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more redesigns. Definitely planning on doing a lot more of these, and I'm happy to do some more breakdown videos as well if you guys are happy with this video. So thank you guys so much. Any sound design questions, don't feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you.